How's it going, YouTube lovers? This is the Eagle Builder Animator. Welcome back to another Bird Brain Theory. Today, it's the big one. It's Avengers Endgame. It's definitely, we're less than a week away. I'm recording this just as the premiere in LA is getting underway. I had to get this out right for you guys, and I'm super excited to talk about this. So I'm going to start, though, as I usually do, spoiler warning, in case anything I say happens to be right, but I did want to make it very clear. I know that there were leaks recently of footage from Endgame. I have accidentally seen a few seconds of it, but I will not be talking about it in this video. That did not affect the script at all. I wrote the script before the leaks came out. I just didn't get around to recording it until afterwards, so don't worry about that, and keep it out of the comments. I'm going to talk about that again at the end, but do not put leaks in the comments. I will not allow that. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about, of course, Avengers Endgame, and the three topics I am going to cover are how I believe the movie will begin, what the Avengers mission is, and what the final Endgame will be. Now, this is a long one, my longest script I've ever written for Bird Brain Theory, so let's go ahead and start with how it starts. Kevin Feige had said that it is, quote, somewhat accurate that the trailers we've seen for Endgame have only shown footage from the first 15 or 20 minutes of the movie. So this is the part of the theory that I am actually the most confident about, because we've had the most evidence for it. So let's go ahead and start. I believe that Endgame will start with footage from the snap. Then we're going to take a little bit of a step back and overlap the ending of Infinity War a bit. But I think that this footage we're going to see is not just going to be a rehashing of what we've already seen, but including the deaths that we haven't seen. We learned from new posters that Shuri also fell victim to the snap. And since she's a fan favorite character, and probably my favorite from Black Panther, I would say that they're going to show us her death so that we have a bit of fan satisfaction with that one. But then also, this is going to be the one that really gets us. We know for a fact that we are going to see what happens to Hawkeye's family. We actually see him with them in the second trailer for Endgame, and it's really hard to tell, but he actually has an ankle monitor on. So this footage is between Civil War and the end of Infinity War. So I'm convinced that this is going to show what happens. He's going to lose his family, and Marvel, why you gotta be so cruel to us? But that's what I believe is going to happen, and then we are going to, I believe, skip forward about 22 days is what it sounds like, based on descriptions of footage shown to the press, is that 22 days is the time that has passed between the two movies. So I believe that's when we're going to have our skip, where it's going to show us a few of the other deaths that we didn't get to see, put everyone in misery again, and then skip forward. At this point of the movie, we'll actually be reaching the point where we're going to see a slideshow of some of the dead characters like we've seen in the trailers, including, of course, Spider-Man and Dr. Selvig and Scarlet Witch and other characters like that. And then this is going to be the clip that we see that they released that is from the beginning of the movie where Captain Marvel is pushing them to rush in blindly to go after Thanos. Well, yes, I'm just going to say I am 100% with Bruce Banner and War Machine on this one. I do not think it's a good idea for them to rush in. And so that's when we're going to get this part. And it seems like there is a title card here, based on the fact that the music is swelling here, that we could see something like this. But there's still so much to cram in there that I think that this is actually after the title card. Because even we see from a clip, Tony and Nebula have already shown up back on Earth at this point. I mean, we see Nebula standing next to the other Avengers in another angle of this scene. Even if they don't show Shuri dying, Hawkeye's family dying is possibly a flashback. Even if we ignore that part that they're going to show us some new stuff, that's still the entire plot arc for Tony being stuck in space, and for them to figure out, however they detected it, that Thanos used the stones again so they can figure out where he is. That is a lot to cram in before the opening title card. So I'm thinking that the title card is before this. Maybe actually with Tony in space giving the dialogue that we had from the very first trailer for Endgame about he's trapped in space and that they're running out of oxygen. And maybe that's when the title card will play, with a more depressing tone of music to say, yes, we are still need emotional support after the ending of Infinity War. And then that swelling orchestra that we hear at the end of the clip might actually be for more of a let's suit up and go scene, similar to the one that they had in the Avengers right before the Battle of New York. So we know that they're going to go after Thanos pretty early on in the movie, though. But this is Act 1. There is no way this assault is going to go as planned. I think it is more than likely that they will lose again. The big battle footage, though, that we've seen in the trailer, how they're going up against Thanos, that's not from this fight. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but my biggest proof about this is Captain America. Cap has his new armor on, his new scaled armor, in the scenes on that whatever battlefield wasteland that is, going up against Thanos. But we know that he's wearing his Winter Soldier suit when he goes on the first mission. We see that in the first trailer when he's talking to Nat, and also when he's in the Benatar with the other heroes. So we'll go back to this location a bit later in the theory, but just keep in mind that is not the fight that is going to be at the beginning. Thing is, though, I am actually convinced that we are going to see a character die at the beginning of the movie and drive the Avengers' morale even lower. And I think the most likely candidate is actually Captain Marvel. Because the OG6 are going to be the focus of Endgame. We know that. They've confirmed that. So, to be able to focus on them more, removing who has been bragged about to be the most powerful by Kevin Feige and others, would help them to direct the focus more towards the characters that we've known and loved for years. Plus, if you think about it, we haven't really seen much of her beyond going to the Act 1 battle. I mean, we see her in that one clip, whether the Avengers HQ, we see her on the Benatar, and we see some scenes of her what looks might be that battle scene, but that could also, we don't see the ground, that could just be the sky above Thanos' new homeworld. So I think that she dies here, but maybe it's something like she gets hit by a fully powered gauntlet, like a backhand or something. Thanos slaps her, and she turns to dust too. That way, it's much easier to bring her back later in the movie with the other heroes. Because while I'm still convinced that, I'm going to talk about this later, other characters could come back, the Snap characters are definitely coming back, so to make it easier to bring Captain Marvel back, that they just turn her to dust at the beginning of the movie. Interesting quote, though, is from one of the co-directors, Joe Russo. He said that they found a, quote, thoughtful way to deal with Captain Marvel being so overpowered. But it's very hard to tell what this means, especially because this is coming from one of the directors who gave us Bucky's tragic storyline, the superhero Civil War, and half the universe dying. And they also have flat out lied to us about the title of Endgame. So it's pretty hard to tell what this thoughtful way is. Maybe thoughtful for him is just more try to pull at your heartstrings by killing her off. Now, there is a chance that she could survive, that they possibly, it's not that they lose the battle, but that they part ways for some reason, or afterwards, maybe they can't get a hold of the stones, they don't know how to use the stones, or something like that, they part ways. But that would ruin a huge scene that I'm going to talk about at the very end that I know is coming, so I think it's most likely that she's going to die in this first battle. I mean, all the others that we see on the Benatar in this shot, we see them later in their white suits. So we definitely know that they are surviving, but Captain Marvel's chances, I believe, are not good to survive Act 1. And then at this point, another time jump, maybe for another month or so. This allows Thanos to be the victor for even longer. He's still the winner after was basically his movie, Infinity War. And that, like I said, will lower the Avengers' morale even more. But then, that's when Ant-Man shows up, and they can begin planning the actual mission that they're going to go on, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So what is this mission? Well, obviously the Quantum Realm was going to play a major role in this plan. I mean, even on Marvel.com, after the second trailer release, we saw these white suits for the first time. It confirmed that these suits were inspired by Hank Pym's quantum suit from Ant-Man and the Wasp. The question is, what role will this mysterious realm play in Endgame? Well, time travel, I believe, is the obvious suggestion. Janet even mentioned time vortices during the mid-credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And an early TV spot actually includes a clock ticking in the background.
We lost. All of us.
Even trailer number 2 uses Peggy Carter's line of "Start over" from The Winter Soldier.
And sometimes the best that we can do is to start over.
Then, of course, the biggest thing is that set photos have showed Loki, Thor, and Captain America looking like they did in the first Avengers movie. So time travel, I believe, is definitely going to be a huge thing here. I mean, there's a chance that parallel realities could play a role too, but I'm not going to be going too much into that for this theory. If you want to hear me talk about that more, including time travel and parallel realities together as a whole, please check out my Ant-Man the Wasp Bird Brain vid that I made right after I saw Ant-Man the Wasp. You can check that out. The link is down in the description below. And I'm also going to have an end card that has the playlist for all my Bird Brain theories if you want to check those out too. But then the major question comes is, what are the Avengers doing with time travel? Now, I see two options here. One is that they're going back to look at these past events to learn more about Thanos. I mean, similar to the BARF system that we were introduced to in Civil War. We have seen another set photo that shows like a Pelican case that says BARF on it. So those are going to have some role, but I'm convinced that time travel is still the thing they're doing, and what I believe to be the most likely course of action for the Avengers with time travel is that they're going to try to collect the stones before Thanos can. So let's focus on that part, the idea that they're going to be collecting the stones. We have bits of pieces of evidence scattered throughout the trailers for this. The first one I'm going to say is the Benatar itself. We see this beautiful shot. I love this shot, by the way. Just visually, it's amazing to me. In the special look. And it actually might show them leaving after collecting the Power Stone. Because the exterior shot and the interior shot are actually going to be from two different scenes. I mean, just look at the planet behind them. Seem familiar? It should. This is Morag from Guardians of the Galaxy 1. This was where Star-Lord first found the Power Stone in the orb. And yet we know that the scene in the group shot is when they're going out to fight Thanos for the first time in Act 1. So these two are just clever trailer manipulation, but that is definitely Morag they're leaving. Now, as I mentioned, another piece of evidence for this is that we've seen set photos from the Battle of New York. And we've actually seen actual footage from this too in the special look. The now famous "Do You Trust Me" scene between Stark and Cap. Because the thing here is, he's wearing his Nomad suit from Infinity War, but it doesn't make sense for him to wear that. We've already seen him using his Winter Soldier suit at the beginning of the movie, and he's going to get the scaled armor suit too. But another thing is, it's not exactly the same. If you look at the shoulders and everything, it is not the same design. And it just looks a bit off. I believe that this is something that I've talked about in my first Bird Brain Theory video. You can check that link down below as well. Is that this is another case of Thor's eye patch, where something is being CGI'd so that it doesn't ruin the reveal in the movie. I believe that Tony is actually talking to a younger version of Cap from 2012. You can see in this fan edit here what that might look like. And we also see that Tony is wearing a S.H.I.E.L.D. uniform. Now, it's very similar to uniforms that we saw worn by S.H.I.E.L.D. members in the first Avengers movie. And we also have seen in the set photos, like I mentioned, Cap in his old suit and Tony in a S.H.I.E.L.D. suit standing next to Ant-Man as well. So it definitely seems like they're going back to the Battle of New York. That's going to be a given. And like I mentioned, the other picture showed Loki in the past. He was wearing that same thing over his mouth, that's same prisoner thing, almost like handcuffs for your face, that he wore at the end of the Avengers when Thor took him back to Asgard. So it seems like here they would be definitely going after at least the Space Stone, maybe even the Mind Stone, because we know that is in Loki's scepter. And having them go after the Space Stone could even explain why, in the special look, we see Thanos arriving using one of the beams from his Q-ships. I mean, if he has the Space Stone, he doesn't need this. But if the Avengers have already gone back to collect the Space Stone, Thanos wouldn't have it. And this also falls in line with an old synopsis that was leaked a while ago, saying that they would learn how fragile reality is. Because, I mean, if they're collecting the Space Stone and Thanos suddenly doesn't have it, but he still knows that everything else happened, this seems like they're going back to the future on us, and things are going to start fading away, such as the Infinity Stones from Thanos' gauntlet. Now, let's talk about the Thanos scene real fast, where he arrives. I believe that this epic battle happens at the Avengers headquarters. Now, there's a lot of destruction here, but it seems likely. Like I was saying, Thanos could be realizing that the stones are back to the futuring away from his gauntlet, and so he goes on the offensive to stop the Avengers from undoing all of his hard work. I mean, we even see part of the headquarters explode in a TV spot. I mean, you can see it's the same wall behind them there, and it just explodes, and they go all over the place. This is a battle at the Avengers headquarters. Even a Lego set has showed us that Thanos is going to attack the headquarters. I mean, we even had a new spot that shows Thanos leading his army on this whole same battlefield. Wow, that's not very good for humans, let's be honest. If Thanos is coming to Earth, it would definitely give us a payoff for Tony's vision from Age of Ultron, where he sees a full-scale invasion of Earth, and he feels that he's failed. This would give us payoff for that scene, because let's be honest, Age of Ultron is the black sheep of the Avengers quadrilogy. Being able to have payoff on something from that movie would be a very smart decision, in my opinion. So there's going to be time travel, there's going to be battles all over the place, we're going to Back to the Future style fading. It definitely seems like Endgame is going to be just as chaotic as Infinity War, if not more so. Which is going to be absolutely mind-boggling. But after all this chaos, how's it going to end? That's what we're going to talk about next in describing what I think the Endgame will be. So, at the end of the movie, we definitely know that the Avengers are going to save everyone who died to the snap. Even if some of them do end up dying again, it's not going to be because of the snap. None of that is going to be permanent. We've talked about this before. I mean, even the spoiler man himself, Tom Holland, let slip that Doctor Strange had to talk about quantum stuff. Since when? I mean, even in Doctor Strange, we had a hint that he kind of was shown the quantum realm during that big mind-bending sequence where he was shown how big the multiverse was. But he never had any dialogue about it, and he definitely didn't talk about it in Infinity War, so it seems like this is actually a part from Endgame. Thank you for that, Tom. You always make theorist jobs easier. So while the snap victims are coming back, who could actually die for real? So, of course, I would say, obviously, Tony Stark, I believe, is the most obvious choice to die. I mean, he's the one who started the MCU 11 years ago with Iron Man 1, and him dying at the end of this Infinity Saga seems like it would be the way to say this is a new beginning. Even though it's still the same cinematic universe you know and love, we're starting fresh, new overarching plot, new characters being introduced. And it seems like that would be the way that they would tell this story. The next person I see as most likely to die would be, unfortunately, Captain America. But maybe not. I think he might have some chance he'd be taken out of the picture, but not dead. See, we know they're going to be manipulating the timeline and there's potential for alternate realities. So maybe Cap at the end will end up living sometime or somewhere else. Maybe he could actually go back and live the rest of his life with Peggy after all. And this would be another thing that would be paying off on elements of Age of Ultron in the vision that Scarlet Witch gave him. I mean, we've already had Thor's vision tie in directly to Ragnarok. We believe that Tony's vision is direct tie into Endgame. It would make sense if they had a payoff for Cap's vision as well. The next on the list, of course, going down the OG6, would be Thor, as the next likely to die. But I think he has a good chance to survive. I mean, Ragnarok completely reinvented the character, and for the better. I absolutely loved that movie, and it's made him way more popular with everyone than he ever was before. And even Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, the two main actors from that movie, have said that Taika Waititi, the director, already has a plan for Thor 4 if Marvel will greenlight it, and there are talks about that happening. Even if they weren't going to do a direct sequel to Thor 3, having him around in the universe would be great so they can show up occasionally as the MCU expands into the cosmos more, because we know that that's what's going to be happening. So having a familiar character out there who could show up for cameos or team-ups farther down the line would be a really great asset for Marvel Studios. And then getting to the other three of the OG6, I believe that they are safe, and there's no reason really to kill them off. Black Widow's always been one of the more underrated Avengers, and even though her solo movie, which is rumored to be set in the early 2000s, is going to be a prequel, it wouldn't make sense to kill her off at this point. She has really stepped up, and she has become a full-on member of the Avengers, showing that she's worth her salt. And killing her off now when there's so much more potential to use her, I believe would be a waste. And the other two are definitely easy to tell here. I mean, Hawkeye is rumored to be getting a Disney Plus show where he's training Kate Bishop as an apprentice, which I would love to see him have his own show. I've actually always enjoyed Hawkeye. He's been one of my favorite Avengers. Unpopular opinion, but I've always liked him since we first met him. And then Hulk is, in and of itself, he's difficult to kill, but Mark Ruffalo also still has one more Marvel movie on his contract, so it makes sense for him to still be alive in order to actually take part of that. So for the rest of the Endgame, for who lives and dies, I still stand by most of what I said in my previous Avengers 4 theory. Check that link in the description as well. I mean, I believe that, of course, Heimdall is probably going to stay dead, and unfortunate, I like his character, don't hate me in the comments, but I believe Loki is also dead for real. I mean, Loki is getting a Disney Plus show, but the stories that have been coming around that are saying that it's going to be set earlier in the MCU and talk about other mischief that he's been up to during that time frame. So I do not believe that Loki will actually be resurrected. Vision could remain dead, but there's a chance that he could come back since he was mostly AI. I mean, we don't know when the show WandaVision, which that name, is set to be. We don't know when that's going to be. But he could come back, he could not come back. WandaVision could be set during the time when he's running around with Scarlet Witch, trying to avoid the Sokovia Accords. We don't know what's going to happen. Gamora, though, definitely coming back. I'm standing by that. Her death was different from the others that were before the snap, because it was more of a trade. I mean, Red Skull specifically says it's
a soul for a soul.
So I believe she's definitely coming back. I mean, we do know Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 got instructor James Gunn back, and Gamora is supposed to be playing a huge part in it, so she's definitely coming back. So the last thing I want to talk about, in talking about what the end game is going to be for this movie, is something I'm super excited to see on the big screen. Is that the MCU roster is so massive right now. There's nearly 80 characters in this thing. But I believe that we are more than likely going to see everyone together one final time. And as basically one massive group shot. We were kind of denied a group shot in Infinity War. I mean, the one we got in the trailer didn't have everyone, and it wasn't even in the movie. But I believe we're going to get one final group shot. I mean, even Sebastian Stan mentioned that there is a scene where everyone is there. I mean, this could be referencing to when they got everyone together for the 10-year class photo, but I think not, because he specifically said scene. I mean, even more recently, Robert Downey Jr. said that the last 8 minutes of Endgame are some of the best in the entire MCU because everyone is involved. If that doesn't say, hey, there's going to be at every character scene, then I don't know what does. It's going to be incredible, like a huge sweeping shot showing everyone, and I am definitely looking forward to that. It would be such a fitting way to end this era of this beloved franchise. Before I go, here is a quick recap. I'm trying to give you the nutshell version as much as I can. So the beginning is going to show us probably with more deaths, showing off the deaths we didn't get to see from the snap. Tony and Nebula, of course, are going to come back, and Captain Marvel's going to push them to go after Thanos in this big rushed Act 1 battle, but they are not going to succeed. It's going to drive their morale even lower, and I believe that Captain Marvel could even die in this. Then the mission after this that I believe is going to be after another time jump, when Ant-Man arrives with the Quantum Tunnel, is they're going to use that to time travel to the past and try to collect the Infinity Stones before Thanos gets to them. He's going to realize this, though, because of Back to the Future style fading, and he is going to mount an assault on the Avengers headquarters in this big, epic battle. And then, finally, the end game of the movie. I am convinced that Iron Man is going to die. Cap could die. He's the next most likely after Iron Man, but he has a chance that he could possibly live out his days in the past or an alternate reality with Peggy. And then, of course, all the snap victims are going to come back, and we're going to get an epic, massive, every character scene at the end to wrap up this era of the MCU. So there we go, that's my final word on Endgame, but we don't have much longer to wait, just until April 26th here in the US, or if you're going to the Thursday night showing in IMAX like I am, April 25th. Super excited. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and reminder, do not put spoilers in the comments. Myself and the chat mods will delete anything that is intended as a spoiler, and if anyone persists to try to post spoilers, they will be blocked from commenting on my videos. Do not put spoilers in here. I'm going to keep restricting any spoilers out of these comments until like a week after the movie comes out. At that point, I believe, if you haven't seen the movie, then why are you even looking up theory videos at this point? So remember, no spoilers about a week out after the movie. If you want to talk about what I got wrong or right in the comments, that's fine, but not until then. So I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Please drop a like and leave a comment down below if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and help my channel reach 1,000 subscribers. And I will see you all on the next one. Bye, guys!
This is gonna work.
I know it is. Because I don't know what I'm gonna do if it doesn't.